Good afternoon, everyone, and thank you for attending this session on data security. Sorry about that. I am Jacques Cousineau, Head of Sales at Novipro, and will be your host this afternoon. The presentation that you're about to see should last 30 minutes, and we will have a 15-minute Q&A at the end. I'm going to ask everyone to use the chat in the SwapCard platform to write your questions. We do have a hard stop at 1:15, but feel free to visit Thales Group booth in the SwapCard platform under Partners. Someone will be there to greet you and answer all of your questions. Now, without further ado, join me in welcoming Gina Cinta from the Thales Group. Gina is a senior solution architect with Thales DIS Cloud Protection and Licensing business line. She has over 30 years of experience in the information technology profession, encompassing pre-post sales engineering support for commercial and federal territory. Gina, the floor is yours.
Thank you so much for the kind introduction. My name is Gina Cinta, and I'm going to be talking to you about the purpose and the point behind cloud security best practices. But first, I'd like to talk a little bit about the history of the Thales company. We come from a long lineage of company acquisition. I actually started with the company SafeNet 11 years ago, but they were founded in 1983 on the basis of providing link encryption for securing communications. Over the years in acquisition, we added hardware security modules, we've added encryption and key management, identity access management, and through the merger with Thales, Formetric, and Gemalto, we now have a very broad, robust portfolio of encryption, key management, and identity access management to enable you to protect your data both on your premise, in the cloud, at rest, and in motion, and securing that with strong identity access management. I'm going to start out by talking about some information we collected through our data breach report. We do these reports on a yearly basis, and what we found that data breaches and security threats continue to increase in complexity. 56% claimed to have experienced a security breach, and the 54% ranked malware as the leading cause of their security attacks. With 47%, they saw an increase in cyber attacks over the past year. And we've been keeping this information for years, and year over year, these numbers continue to increase. And we saw 47% saw an increase in the ransomware attacks. So the threat landscape and the data breaches continue to exist. They continue to happen, and we're all about protecting that data to minimize the effect should a data breach happen within your organization. When we talk about on-premise and in the cloud, we've got to talk about, from a multi-cloud standpoint, where are the risks involved in protecting your data? We look at the options within the cloud for platform as a service, software as a service, and infrastructure as a service. And 45% of our customers surveyed said they are using more than 2 platform as a service providers, where they are using more than 50 software as a service applications and also using up to 2 infrastructure as a service platforms. So there's not one solution that they look to use to solve all their problems. They look at a multi-cloud approach. So when they start looking at that multi-cloud approach, we want to make sure that cloud security is top of mind when you start looking at that. But from what our results of our survey show, 50% state that more than 40% of their data is stored in a public cloud, with 46% saying that nearly 60% of that sensitive data stored in the cloud is not encrypted. And that's a concerning number because there's a greater threat for those data breaches in the cloud than even on-premise today. And only 17% state that more than 50% of their data stored in the cloud is encrypted, which is really concerning because that is a very sensitive. There's so much sensitive data moving to the cloud that it's of utmost importance. The number one topic of conversation when moving to the cloud is security. However, we're still seeing not enough of that data is being protected in the cloud. What's the number one driver that my customers come to Thales for protecting their data? Meeting global privacy and compliance regulations. And it's not the same everywhere you look. Where the compliance mandates are in Canada differ and overlap with where the compliance mandates are, say, in Europe. The General Data Protection Regulation, GDPR, is driving a lot of this compliance mandate from a global perspective. And how do you go about protecting your data to meet these compliance mandates and mitigate your risk? Because the fines associated with not being compliant can be rather steep and can really affect a company's bottom line. When we talk about protecting data in the cloud, there's two ways to go about approaching how to choose the solution you need to protect your data in the cloud. First of all, you've got highly sensitive data. If you do, you want to protect that through bringing your own encryption, where you control the encryption, you control the key management, you take the responsibility for that activity. Whereas if you're leveraging a cloud native encryption solution, where the cloud provider is providing you the encryption key management, your ownership of that solution is rather limited because the cloud provider is doing that for you. And the way we can provide stronger protection around a native cloud encryption is through bring your own key, which is saying, I want to generate a key on my side of the fence and be able to push that key out to the cloud to use my key versus using the cloud provider's key. So I can have more control over the key that I'm using for my encryption solution in the cloud. Now, how do you decide when you want to use bring your own encryption versus bring your own key? A lot of that's determined by looking at a cloud provider's shared responsibility model, like you see over here on the right. If you're leveraging infrastructure as a service with a cloud provider, the cloud provider provides the security solutions for you from the concrete to the hypervisor or the virtualization layer within their environment. But everything from the operating system up to the data layer is your responsibility for protecting that data. In that situation, that's where bring your own encryption is going to enable you to leverage that cloud security solution for protecting your data, because you can determine what encryption solution you want to use and what key management solution you want to use, because you have more control over that environment in infrastructure as a service. But when you move to platform as a service and software as a service, the cloud provider takes over more responsibility of that environment, even through the operating system, the middleware layer, runtime, and then even with software as a service, the application layer. So you can't have an option to choose which type of encryption you want to use. You really have to leverage the cloud provider's encryption key management. But what you do have a choice is the ability to say, I want to bring my own key to that solution with a bring your own key option. So not one or the other is going to meet all of your requirements, but collectively together, having bring your own encryption and bring your own key solutions for your cloud security is really a best practice that you can provide. And what I'm finding with my customers is oftentimes, application developers are developing in cloud solutions without being conscious of cloud security until the security team gets involved. And it's really important to have cloud security and application development working hand in hand with each other, so you make smart decisions at the beginning instead of having to retroactively make a decision after you've already invested in your application development and choosing what applications and what solutions you're going to use. So let's take a look at the risks, because I've talked about bring your own encryption, I've talked about bring your own key, and where are the advantages and disadvantages and the risks involved in choosing those solutions. So if we look in the lower left-hand corner here, with the level of cloud control that you would have versus the level of data portability you can have, with using a cloud provider's native encryption solution, they're providing the encryption, they're providing the key management. So you have minimal capability for data portability because you're locked into their encryption and key management solutions. And you have minimal control of that. So how do you gain a little bit more control over that environment from a key management standpoint? And that's where being able to bring your own key to the public cloud native encryption gives you some sense of partial control over your solution, because you're saying, I want to use this key, I want to control the life cycle of that key, and be able to take somewhat more ownership of that. But as you move up the scale here, another option for centralized key management is withhold your own key, or double key encryption, which I haven't talked about yet. But what hold your own key is saying, I'm going to hold my key that I want to use for my cloud encryption on my side of the fence. And when I'm ready to use it, I'm going to release that for use with the encryption solution. So you're not pushing a key or taking a key over to the cloud. You're using a key when you want to. Double key encryption kind of works like safe deposit box in a bank, where you hold part, the owns part of the key. And when using both of those keys together, you now have the ability to do the encryption or decryption of your data that sits in the cloud, giving you a lot stronger customer control over the solutions. But you notice that there's only certain cloud providers that offer this capability, like Azure, Google, and Salesforce. Whereas Bring Your Own Key is supported with other solutions as well, like Amazon Web Services or IBM Cloud. So what cloud you choose to use and what solutions you choose to use are tied very closely with each other. If you look at the far right, with centralized key management and encryption with Bring Your Own Encryption, you now have full control over your encryption and key management, and it's supported in more cloud providers, not only public cloud providers, but also leveraging your own hybrid solutions, and also look at solutions like Teradata and SAP support that as well. So now with this Bring Your Own Encryption solution, you achieve the maximum level of data portability and also separation of duties and accountability. You're taking ownership of the solution. And let's take a look at that data portability concept. If you're invested in one cloud provider today, and you're using native cloud encryption and key management, and then you decide you want to lift and shift your workload to another cloud provider, maybe what they offer gives you more of what you're looking for with that particular data or that particular application. If you're locked into a cloud provider's native encryption and key management, you have very rigid data portability. Basically, you would have to decrypt everything, move it to the other cloud provider, and re-encrypt it using their encryption and key management solution. But with Bring Your Own Encryption and your own centralized key management, you now have a secure way to lift and shift your workloads from cloud provider to cloud provider, because you've done the encryption, you've used your own key management, so you have the control to be able to easily lift and shift, creating that data portability that you may need to achieve. So these are all things, put them on a scale and balance them, because you have to decide, not every solution is going to meet all of your requirements. More than likely, you're going to have a mixture of multiple of these solutions. You may have some Bring Your Own Key, some Bring Your Own Encryption, maybe some of your own Hold Your Own Key solutions. It really depends on what you're trying to do. There's not one answer, but there's multiple options to help solve the security in the cloud problem you may be encountering today. Some other pros and cons, pluses and minuses to cloud native encryption versus Bring Your Own Encryption. Cloud native encryption, the plus side is it's easy, it's low cost to you. The minus side of that is the cloud provider sources and holds the keys. Generally, it's identical to full disk encryption. Over OS, your data's in the clear. A very high indirect costs. But with Bring Your Own Encryption, the pluses to that is you now have multi-cloud mobility, where you can lift and shift from premise to the cloud or cloud to cloud your workloads. OS level access controls, you control the users, what type of access they have, and who and what can access the information. You have advanced capabilities for offering encryption solutions to your customers and your applications with low indirect cost. The minuses is it can be complex, because now you're taking ownership of both of those responsibilities, where the cloud provider was doing it for you with native encryption. There is some ways to do bring your own encryption and platform as a service, but it does require developer assistance. And sometimes customers get a little bit leery of doing that. And there's some medium direct costs involved. So pluses and minuses for both sides that help you, when you look at these, that helps you to decide which solution is best suited for what you're trying to achieve. What we can bring to you at Thales to help you meet those requirements for bring your own key and bring your own encryption is our CipherTrust Data Security Platform. This CipherTrust Data Security Platform allows you to discover, protect, and control the data. And what do I mean by that? By discovering, we have a tool called Data Discovery and Classification that allows you to scan your data for where those sensitive data elements are resolved, and then protect that data through encryption or tokenization, and then control who and what has access to the information. You'll see in this diagram that it's a continuous loop. That's because you're constantly collecting data, therefore you constantly need to be discovering where the sensitive data is and protecting it and controlling it. It's a continual circular process that you need to do because your data is not static. It's constantly growing and evolving. The CipherTrust Data Security Platform can bring to you simplified data security to accelerate your time to performance compliance and be able to secure your cloud migration. We can do that through discovering, protecting, and controlling the data with our whole suite of solutions that we offer within the platform. CipherTrust Data Security Platform allows you to be able to do that data discovery, finding out where the sensitive data is at, then being able to encrypt or tokenize that data through several options. You can use transparent encryption to encrypt unstructured data or to encrypt database tables. We can do column level encryption of databases. Also, we can do encryption at the application layer, where we can say you can leverage the APIs that we provide to embed encryption at the application layer so that no matter where the data resides, whether it's on a database, an unstructured file, sitting on a virtual machine in the cloud or on your premise, it's all encrypted. We also can provide tokenization. Now, tokenization has a couple of great use cases. One of them that I'm seeing in my customer base over the past year is to leverage tokenization for data masking. And that means I have customers that want to take their data that's in production, move it down to a low environment like dev QA, develop against it or test against it or do quality assurance, and be able to then mask that sensitive data so that those types of users, those developers and testers, can't see the sensitive information, but they can still test the validity of an application against live production data. So data masking is a big use case I've seen in the past year. What tokenization originally customers used it for was to help narrow the scope for PCI compliance, payment card industry, where you want to secure those credit card numbers to protect them against being breached. And we have the capability to offer tokenization to our customers to protect that type of sensitive information. But really the foundation behind all of those encryption, key management, and discovery and data discovery and classification solutions is our centralized key management. And we can provide centralized enterprise key management for all of these encryption solutions you see here, but also our cloud key management when you're talking about bring your own key. And we can allow you to generate a key on our CipherTrust Manager, which is a part of the data security platform, and then be able to push that key out to the cloud provider. And we'll talk a little bit more about that in just a minute. Let's talk about the foundation of the encryption and key management part of the CipherTrust Data Security Platform, and that is our CipherTrust Manager. CipherTrust Manager allows you to centrally manage your keys with role-based access policies. We've also included REST APIs into the CipherTrust Manager to automate administrative functions and be able to allow it to do programmatic encryption. We've also added multi-tenancy, which when you start talking about providing multiple organizations or departments within your organization with encryption and key management or cloud key management, to be able to separate those keys and policies across departments or across solutions, or maybe separate your cloud key management from your on-premise encryption key management or your your bring your own encryption solutions, that's where multi-tenancy can really provide strong separation of duties. We provide enhanced auditing and reporting, which is of utmost importance if you're looking to meet compliance mandate, because those audit logs and reporting are going to be a vital part of being able to check those boxes for compliance. We're available, the manager's available in virtual and hardware appliance solutions. However, you're focused on the cloud and you want your key manager in the cloud, then that's where our virtual CipherTrust Manager comes into play. It's supported in AWS, Azure GovCloud, Google, and Oracle's cloud. We'll be coming out with availability in Alibaba Cloud and also IBM Cloud, either by the end of this year or first quarter of next year. We also support hypervisors and private clouds like VMware, Hyper-V, OpenStack, and Nutanix AHV. It comes with a nice web UI interface to make it easy to manage and administer the solutions. And we provide an unparalleled partner solution ecosystem with cloud providers, cloud access security brokers, storage and vendor solutions, database encryption solutions as well. One of the solutions for bring your own key that we provide is CipherTrust Cloud Key Manager, or CCKM. CipherTrust Cloud Key Manager gives you a way to centrally manage your cloud encryption keys for infrastructure as a service, platform as a service, and software as a service, where you can generate a key on the CipherTrust Manager through CCKM. You can then push that key out to the cloud provider to say, this is the key that I want to use for your encryption, your native encryption solution. So now you're able to generate your key and control the life cycle of that key with your cloud provider solution. Whereas if you're using native cloud encryption, you don't have control over the life cycle of that key, but you're able to generate a key and push it out to the cloud provider and control the life cycle of that key. Some of the top reasons why customers have purchased CCKM when using cloud provider native encryption: auditors will not let you move to the cloud if you cannot prove cloud custodianship. With CCKM, you can show, here I'm owning the cloud keys on my side of the fence and I'm pushing them out to the cloud provider. What if you want to suspend what you're doing in the cloud and then resume it later? With CipherTrust Cloud Key Manager, you do that through supporting the lifecycle of the key, where you can revoke that key at any time. An example with AWS, when you revoke a key, it takes 7 days for that key to actually get deactivated. With CipherTrust Cloud Key Manager, when you revoke that key or deactivate that key, it happens immediately. It's no 7-day wait. So you're now controlling when you want to suspend or discontinue use of a key within the cloud. If you want to meet FIPS 140-2 level 3 key assurance and being able to back up those keys, CipherTrust Manager with CCKM allows you to do just that. If you don't have time to manage the resources for cloud key management with multiple clouds, CipherTrust Cloud Key Manager gives that to you with one single pane of glass, a very nice web UI interface where you can manage all your cloud encryption keys across all of your cloud providers from one point, rather than having to go into each cloud provider and manage the keys separately. And you never want to lose any of those keys again. That CipherTrust Cloud Key Manager gives you that capability, because under the covers, CipherTrust Manager is managing those keys, backing up those keys in case there's any need to restore a key. And you want to be able to kill your keys with 100% assurance with your cloud account. And the only way to do that is with Cloud Key Management and CCKM. When I talk about being able to manage the whole life cycle of the key, this shows you just exactly that. With Bring Your Own Key, you now have the ability to create a key on your side of the fence. But with Cloud Key Management, CipherTrust Cloud Key Management, you can not only create the key, but you can now control the whole life cycle of that key, from backup, deploying it, monitoring, rotating it, expiring it, archiving it, and destroying it. You're controlling the entire life cycle of the key. If you do a manual bring your own key process, the only way to do that and be able to control it is through the creation of the key. You're not really controlling the entire life cycle of the key like you can with CipherTrust Cloud Key Management. You get the whole life cycle of the key in your control. Let's talk about, now I've talked about bring your own key. Let's go into details about how we can provide you bring your own encryption. One of the solutions is through our transparent encryption solution called CipherTrust Transparent Encryption, or CTE. CTE is a software agent you would install on every server where you want to do encryption. And that's why it's a solution in infrastructure as a service, because you can say, I want to install software on this virtual machine that you have running in the cloud. The neat thing about CipherTrust Transparent Encryption is it's cloud agnostic. You can install it on any cloud provider's infrastructure as a service, and you control the encryption and the policy around that encryption through setting that up on the CipherTrust Manager. So you decide who has access and what type of access they have to that encrypted data. So now you've put more control and around the encryption by saying who has access and what type of access they have. Say somebody that is a user of the data would have all full capability to encrypt and decrypt data or read and write the data. Whereas somebody that might be an administrator, they can do their administrative duties of the data, but they can't see that sensitive data because it's encrypted for them. So you control all the access around it to meet compliance and regulation with that encryption and access control, and using the centralized key management around that to support it. We can do encryption of big data, containers. We can encrypt data in the cloud. We can encrypt unstructured data sitting in file systems. And we can also encrypt database tables, because to us, a database table just looks like a file. So now think about this one solution can support all of my needs for protecting data. I can do this on my premise. I can do it in any cloud provider's infrastructure as a service. And once I learn how to do it with one, I know how to do it across all. Whereas when you're using a cloud native encryption solution, every cloud's provider's encryption key management solution is different. So you now have to know how to manage each one differently. It gives you that capability to manage it the same across all cloud providers and on your premise as well. So now you're not only securing your cloud workloads, but also securing your on-premise workloads as well. We have an add-on feature to CipherTrust Transparent Encryption called Live Data Transformation. That allows you to encrypt the data while it is in use. And that's a game changer, especially with databases, because you don't want to have to bring down your database to do the encryption of the data. This gives you that capability to do the encryption of the data while the data is in use, put the policy around it, so it's totally transparent to the user that encryption has taken place, and now they're accessing their data through an encryption access policy rather than where they used to access it in the clear. The other feature that this provides is zero downtime for key rotation. It allows you to schedule and automate key rotation. What does that mean? If I create a key today, and a year from now, I want to rotate that key, I can schedule that key rotation a year out so that when that next year rolls around, I don't have to remember, oh, I need to rotate this key for compliance mandate reasons. It's already been scheduled. It's already going to take place. So that's another feature of live data transformation. And this live data transformation feature works in conjunction with CipherTrust Transparent Encryption, and it's supported on Windows, Linux, and AIX operating systems. The other way we can bring your own encryption is through leveraging our application encryption and/or tokenization. And we can do that through the CipherTrust Application Data Protection and Tokenization product, where you can embed our APIs into your application so that the data gets encrypted at the point of entry. We support .NET, Java, C, C++, and also REST APIs to be able to do that. And then tokenization, We provide tokenization capabilities in a vaulted solution where the sensitive data like your credit card number gets stored in a database for safekeeping. And then the token is what gets represented and utilized. So from a PCI scope, only the database where that sensitive data is at is in scope for PCI compliance, not out where the tokenization is used out on the perimeter of the solution. We also have vaultless tokenization, where we can randomly generate a token based on the data you want to tokenize. Both of those solutions are valid use cases for supporting protecting the data in a cloud, bring your own encryption solution. So let's take a look at, in summary, of everything we have to offer at Thales with our encryption and key management, excuse me, and our cloud provider. What we can provide is we can support native cloud encryption with bring your own key with our CipherTrust Cloud Key Manager with a unified, centralized encryption and key management solution. We can provide on-premise key management as well as in the cloud key management. And when you talk about managing encryption keys, part of that best practice is high availability. So by being able to cluster the key managers, whether they're on-premise or in the cloud or both, for high availability, so that you don't ever have a time where you can't have access to your keys is a part of those best practices. High availability for your key managers. In a FIPS 140-2 compliant, secure key storage appliance, could be physical, if it's on your premise, virtual, on-premise, and in the cloud. Also through the use of encrypting volumes of data and databases using our transparent encryption and our live data transformation capability with granular access control, being able to provide secure, intelligent logs and auditing to meet compliance mandates, being able to do that highest level of data protection if you want to leverage application layer encryption and tokenization across all cloud providers and also on your premise as well. If you're looking for more guidance on our Thales solutions, you can visit the Thales website, www.cpl.thalesgroup.com, excuse me, where you can have access to all of our product information. I would like to thank you for joining me today, and we will be following up with any Q&A that anybody might have based on all the information you've learned today. Thank you for your time. Any questions?
So welcome back, everyone. Thank you, Gina, for the presentation. We will now go over the questions. We have a few questions that came in. First question, Gina, is what about the new era of quantum computing and ability to decrypt all previous encrypted communication? What are the new encryption solutions to be quantum resistant?
So we've been working very closely with keeping an eye on NIST, the National Institute of Standards and Technology, and all the different algorithms that are being proposed for quantum computing. And today, our hardware security module solution is quantum ready to support that. And also our high-speed network encryption that secures communications over the wire. That also is quantum ready as well. So we're staying ahead of the game on that as much as we can, because that is definitely one of the hottest topics of discussion right now in the cryptography industry. Yeah. And so we're keeping close eye on all of the algorithms, those that are being accepted, to make sure we can meet with those. We also work with a company called ID Quantique, where we've been able to integrate with their solution and our hardware security modules as well. The biggest concern with quantum computing is it breaking the PKI infrastructure. So that's more tied closely to our hardware security modules rather than the CipherTrust Data Security Platform that we talked to today. However, CipherTrust Data Security Platform and our CipherTrust Manager, Key Manager, will be and can be integrated with our hardware security module as a root of trust. So it will be able to support that technology as well.
Good, thank you. Another question is, why understanding the shared responsibility model important when making decision about cloud product you use and cloud security?
So, as I said earlier in the presentation, you've got to balance whether you want to use bring your own encryption, where you can put your encryption solutions onto your virtual machines that you have running in the cloud. And the only way to do that is through infrastructure as a service, because you control everything above the hypervisor and above. With leveraging a cloud provider's native encryption, that's more like platform as a service or software as a service. You can't bring your own encryption solution. If you want to use encryption for your data, you have to use the cloud provider's encryption, and that's where bring your own key comes into play. But what I see through my customer base is a combination of them using both. But it's important to understand where your responsibility begins and where the cloud provider ends.
Got it. Okay, next question. Sure, I have this right. So what challenges do you see with information security team ability to influence developer implementation of security solution when moving to the cloud?
Okay, so what I'm seeing a lot is that the developers are going off and developing applications within the cloud without taking into consideration security. And then the security team later on gets involved and to try to enforce those requirements. And then that's when you have to start looking at, oftentimes developers are using the cloud encryption solution. So to gain ownership of those keys, bring your own key is really your own solution. So it's best to make sure that the developers are working with the security teams at the beginning, like I said, hand in hand, to make sure that security is front of mind during application development rather than an afterthought afterwards, to make sure you can provide the highest level of security that you need, especially if you're trying to meet a compliance mandate, because
Right.
using a cloud provider's encryption might not meet that requirement.
Good. Another question is there a separation of duties problem with cloud provider encryption?
So yes, with the cloud provider owning the encryption and key management solution, you don't have a way to create that separation of duty, which is really important with managing encryption keys. So that's why being able to bring your own key now gives that separation of duty. Sometimes it's a false sense of duty, but it's the best you can do when you're using cloud native encryption. But it does give you that ability to take ownership of the keys and be able to control that life cycle of the key that you wouldn't normally have with a cloud provider's native encryption and key management solution. So it becomes very important to understand the pros and cons, and where you can gain control is the most important.
Thank you.
Yeah.
I'm looking for more question. If we don't have more question, I'll conclude this session. Just give it a few seconds. So no more questions. So thank you, Gina, for your time today, for your presentation. On behalf of Thales Group and NoviPro, we wish you all a good cybersecurity event day. Again, you're welcome to visit the Thales Group booth on the partner side of the swap card. If you have any question, people will be there to answer them. Thanks again. Thanks, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you, Gina.